What's up, guys? Chris Brown, otherwise known as Chain Stasis Wellness, coming at you with another wellness moment. Today, I want to talk to you about something that everybody at some point in their life has experienced: pain. Now, pain is specifically interesting in how it affects our life, both in the day to day, but also over the course of our entire life. I find it extremely fascinating, not really in a sadistic or masochistic kind of way, but pain's interesting because it's so nuanced and ubiquitous. Everyone experiences it, and it's different for everybody. It also drives so much of human behavior. Not only can pain be physical or mental, it can also be emotional. Emotional anguish stimulates areas of the brain similarly to physical pain, which is extremely interesting. But it also can be experienced when we merely think that something painful is going to happen. Our brains light up in the same areas when we're worried about pain as when we're experiencing pain, albeit to a lesser extent. Pain is a survival mechanism at its core. People make decisions based on pain they've experienced in the past, pain they're experiencing now, and pain with other people in their social circles. So it's not just their own pain they're experiencing. When you're in pain, you make a lot of decisions differently. You might not go to the gym that day, maybe you'll stay in bed longer, or maybe you might avoid talking to people altogether. Generally, you often avoid doing productive things when you're in pain. Additionally, your emotional state can affect how much pain you're experiencing in the moment. No system in your body works alone. The opposite can also be true. It's super fascinating. Sometimes pain can be a motivator. Think of a massage, and it hurts, but you know that the hurt is going to lead to healing, and it feels so good. It hurts so good, right? Sometimes you can have sore muscles from the gym, and you're like, man, I feel my abs are sore, so it feels like I was productive. Sometimes you can think of pain you experienced right before you won a victory. Maybe you were in a boxing match or wrestling match. You were in pain, but you pushed through it and you won. Pain can teach you powerful lessons, and many times it ends up being a very positive thing in your life. Emotional pain and physical pain can both lead to more empathy, right? Empathy is where you experience the pain of somebody else, all right? You're almost vicariously living through them. You experience someone else's pain internally, and it makes you more likely to help others. People who have gone through pain and trauma are more likely to help others, and they can put themselves in their shoes a lot easier. Sometimes it may also just make you want to retch and vomit. If you watch something that's really painful for someone else, some people experience that and they just can't handle it. That might be why a lot of people can't handle watching horror movies. And for some people, other people's pain is a motivator or even entertainment. Over the course of history, we have seen gladiators, public torture, execution. They literally sell out stadiums. The human fascination with pain is crazy. Even now we watch violent movies, violent sports. We even get that sense of schadenfreude, like you kind of get happy when you see someone that you don't like or someone who did something mean to you get hurt, right? And when pain is constant for people, even if it's not intense, it can literally drive a person mad. Perhaps it's that your body is telling you to escape that pain, but your mind doesn't really know how to do it, and then overall it's just too much. But what is this universal human experience that drives us so much? And why does pain matter? Well, if you look up pain in the dictionary, depending on the dictionary you're looking at, it says a complex constellation of unpleasant sensory, emotional, and cognitive experiences provoked by perceived or real tissue damage and manifested by certain autonomic, physiological, and behavioral reactions. We sense this pain through these neurons in our body called nociceptors. Now, nociceptors are sensory neurons responsible for alerting us of potentially damaging things, like excessive pressure, which would be coming through the mechanical nociceptors, temperature change that could be damaging through the thermal nociceptors, and polymodal receptors that can see injurious chemical changes. Those are three things that could really hurt us in our body. Blood pH drops too low, that's bad, that could kill us. The temperature of our body goes too high, that could kill us. If there's too much pressure on us, it's going to bruise us or cut us, that's also bad. So they're trying to define those three different kinds of harms to our body. They're located all over the body, and the skin is rife with them. Obviously, you feel pain on your skin all the time. You may have noticed that some places are more poignant than others. Usually it's an area that's somewhere that's important, maybe around your kidneys, and often around your hands and your face, things we really need to know and be aware of. So unsurprisingly, there are a lot in many different areas on our skin. But also, a lot of people don't notice this, but there's a lot of them in our GI system, in our gut. You may have heard of people saying, I'm trusting my gut. Well, there's more to that than you usually think. People will experiencing pain in their guts when something physically bad happens to not only themselves, or that's painful, or to others around them. And there's no coincidence there. Interestingly, the central nervous system does not have any of these nociceptors. So you can't really feel it through your nervous system directly. You just feel where the nervous system takes you to, right? Now, there are different types of pain, right? Generally, pain we experience is acute, which is right now like a sharp stabbing feeling, or chronic, something that's just all the time. Oftentimes, chronic pain is like a throbbing pain or a burning pain, or just it's enough that you can deal with it, but it's really kind of annoying. Now, your body will trigger these nociceptors and send the signal through the spinal cord up through these ascending pathways, and there it will go through a lot of structures in the brain telling you how to react. Now, there's two different systems within the brain that matter, the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. The limbic system is like your amygdala, right? You're now, right now, what do I want? What do I need to survive? Pleasure, fear, rewards, arousal, emotions. Your prefrontal cortex is that planning. It's the future. It's the abstract thinking and your goals that are far off in the future. Which one do you think drives human beings more? Well, it's obviously the limbic system. Whenever we're driven for something that's delicious, that's not our planning ahead that's thinking of that, right? Pleasure, all that stuff, you're not planning on that. You just want it right now. So the limbic system is extremely strong, okay? So when we get those signals to our brain, the thalamus, the structure in our brain, receives pain and tells us, hey, is this important? Is this like a very, very mild pain, or is this like, holy crap, right now we need to deal with this? The hypothalamus receives projections from those ascending pain pathways, right? And it sends them through, right? And then the amygdala, this is the emotional part of things. It anticipates pain. So even if we're not in pain, it could be active and reacts to perceived threats. They don't have to be physical. It could be emotional or something you've experienced in the past. This limbic system structure has emotional responses. The hypothalamus, thalamus, amygdala, hippocampus, and even cingulate gyrus are different structures associated with the limbic system. We're not going to get into all those things. The prefrontal cortex, it processes pain signals and tries to rationalize them. Like, why did this happen? Where did it come from? What does it mean? And then tries to create a plan. The brainstem will control autonomic responses to pain, like increased heart rate, vasodilation, increased respiration, and it will put you in that sympathetic state, fight or flight, or let's deal with this problem right now. The nucleus accumbens, I always say that wrong, is a smaller area near the amygdala, and it releases dopamine or serotonin when this happens. Now, this also happens for pleasure, which could explain why sometimes people think painful things are pleasurable. But we're not going to talk about that today. Now, how do we measure this pain, right? Well, unfortunately, pain is pretty hard to measure with people. There's a ton of different scales for pain. Some of the scales use self-reported data, notoriously flawed. Some these scales observe patients and their behavior, and others use a mix of these two methods. What's been found that generally pain is super subjective and very personal. No scale really fits everyone. It kind of makes sense when you think about how pain can be emotionally driven, and it can be driven on past experiences. When people have had pain in the past, sometimes they're more resilient to it. Other times, they have a larger reaction from something that's smaller because of it, maybe through trauma, right? There's a lot of different types of scales, and it's hard to really pin down which one you should use. There's a lot of different types of pain, from stabbing, aching, burning, throbbing. Some's acute, some's chronic. Sometimes it's dull, sometimes it's radiating. While this experience is personal and the severity is difficult to pin down, we can see trends though. Oftentimes you can see the trends by watching people. It's a pretty good way to observe a lot of things in life. Some people will rub painful areas. Other people they'll stop or avoid movement. They'll grimace, they'll sigh. You'll see them like doing this. And these kind of things can alert you to a lot of different things. They can tell you how bad the pain is, they can tell you how chronic the pain is, and they can probably show you the mental effects are going to happen. Sometimes they're predictable, but often people have contradictory behaviors. Humans are programmed to stay alive and to reproduce, basically. And our brains want to go through and find the path of least resistance to do so. So the brain finds patterns that work. They form strong neural connections to them. And it even rewards you for doing predictable and satisfying things with dopamine. So, for instance, eating food high in calories, delicious food, having sex, getting social praise, all these things your brain rewards you with. And as we know, these things can be bad, especially in excess, even though your brain's rewarding you for them. Your brain will actively tell you to avoid anything that causes fear, anxiety, excessive mental or physical work, and most importantly, pain at all costs. And it's a signal that cannot be ignored. And that's part of the problem, right? Our brain will tell us to avoid things even when we need to go through them to heal, right? We have this reflexive response to get out of this state as quickly as possible. Ideally, we then change our behaviors to avoid the situation in the future. You could say the brain tries to use pain as a learning tool, but not all pain is equal, and not all people experience it the same way. There's certain gateways to pain. There's a theory called the psychosocial theory, where pain can be interpreted through a variety of factors. And this is why pain is so different from people. At least this is what we believe. There's biological things, genetics, which can make someone more sensitive to certain types of pain. We've all seen people who are wimpy or have a very sharp reaction to things that shouldn't cause pain. Maybe they have something going on with their nervous system. There's also psychological reasons. So sometimes people are paying more attention to certain things. Sometimes they have prior experience with it. Sometimes they have expectations of what kind of pain it is. You've all seen the people that are afraid of seeing a needle and it makes them go crazy, right? They don't like needles. They don't like clowns, whatever. Maybe they have an expectation of trauma. And then there's also social cultural. The presence of others can affect your level of pain. Sometimes people hate others being around them because they get anxious. Sometimes it helps them, makes them feel better. You can experience pain through empathy, like I said before, or cultural norms. Many places you get piercings and tattoos as a rite of passage, and that is less painful for those people because they see it as something that needs to and should happen. So clearly pain is a very potent stimulus in the body and very involved. But why is it relevant to us in the wellness world? Well, you see, chronic pain, even at a lower level, will affect our perceptions and beliefs of the world around us, and it will affect our daily behaviors without us even realizing it. Like I said before, pain, even psychological, can lead people to literally giving up on life due to perhaps biochemical changes in the brain after sustained trauma and pain. And it could lead to someone being more violent and aggressive, meting out a carnal desire to physically inflict pain on somebody else. Not really something pre-thought out in the prefrontal cortex. You see, while acute pain causes us to pull our hands back from a fire or to stop loading an injured joint, the chronic pain can create this cycle of poor sleep, which can lead to depression and fatigue. It can lead to a higher expression of pain in general, and it can create this cycle of negative self-talk within anger and frustration, anxiety, and even compromised function. It can lead to consuming hospital visits. It can lead to spending more money, and all these things just cascade and cause a really hard cycle to get out of. Again, no system in your body works alone. So how do you help yourself and others in your life deal with pain? Well, it always comes back to these chain links of wellness I talk about. The first thing I really like to focus on with pain, and this is just my advice, is the number one way I believe it is to go through pain management psychologically. You could put this in the relationship category for me, my chain link. One of the most insidious problems with chronic pain is that it can believe that you will never get away from the pain and there's nothing you can do from it. You hear about this all the time, right? This can lead to a lot of negative self-talk, maybe depression, and in the very least, it will kind of hinder you from your proactive actions. It's been shown that negative perceptions and beliefs can lead to harmful behaviors, which can make pain worse. Drugs, alcohol, staying up late, trying to do something fun to make you feel better, bad relationships, reclusive behavior, lack of relationships. Get help. If you don't have friends or family who can help, or you just need extra help, find a therapist who specializes in this kind of management and be open to this change. Allow yourself to believe that it can and will get better. Healing your mind is the first step. Number 2, you need to move. This can be put in the fitness category. Injury management used to always come along with the acronym RICE: rest, ice, compress, elevate. Nowadays, there's a bunch of different acronyms people are trying to make work or make a thing, even though they kind of aren't there yet. You might hear melt or meet. There's a couple different ones. Whether or not you believe that taping should be in there, or analgesics, or lasers, or whatever the healing process needs, all these things have movement in their titles because movement heals. We used to put people in casts all the time, and we've kind of moved away from that because it's shown that it does not help. It actually gets in the way. Movement heals. Stagnation and not allowing movement leads to inflammation and pain. It leads to atrophy. It leads to breakdown, right? Without movement, your body cannot push through blood in your body. Blood has a lot of important things to bring to other areas of your body, like healing factors. Lymph cannot move through waste products. We need to flush it through. And even nervous system function is limited if we're pinching nerves through not moving. The muscles are literally used to push blood back through your body to vital organs. The nerves literally send all the signals through. If these are not going to move through, you're not going to be doing well. Number 3, sleep. When you don't go through all the stages of sleep, not only do you not properly flush out all the waste from the brain, lymph, aka the glymphatic system, glial cells in the brain, and lymph put together, but you do not properly process trauma, which you're going through daily, perhaps. Additionally, much of your physical healing and recovery comes during sleep. Not only this, but it has been shown that motivation towards changes and challenges are much higher in a well-rested individual. So really work on that sleep. Number 4, nutrition. I like to add hydration there. I feel like they're kind of the same thing. You should eat well and get plenty of micronutrients, but you should also actively avoid foods that cause excessive inflammation. Processed fats and sugars, processed foods in general, things that come in boxes and bags, they lead to an excessive amount of inflammation. They can also lead to insulin resistance from having too much sugar all the time. They can lead to distension or GI distress. And in the very least, they can make you lethargic, making you not want to move, which again, we need movement. Often these processed foods are used mentally like alcohol and drugs as well. People will use them as a means to make them feel better, but it ends up the same way as drugs often, where they have this crash, and studies have shown that people feel great while having it, but they feel worse about themselves after overeating or eating these junk foods, just like drug use. Remove these foods from your environment, and you will not eat them when you're in a weaker state of mind. It just won't be there. Please, you are still we're still mammals, right? We're still susceptible to this. Just get rid of them. It's going to help your healing. And adding healthier foods is also important. Find things that are filling and less addictive. Foods that are protein rich, bioavailable, easily absorbed by the GI system, and have lots of nutrients like grass-fed meats, fatty seafood, eggs, lentils, colorful fruits and vegetables. And you can find things that are good for your metabolism, high in B vitamins, and things that help you sleep and recover. Things that are high in zinc and magnesium. I could just go on. Good hydration will allow these nutrients to move easier and your muscles to function properly via good blood flow. And finally, number 5, stress management. Many people will have to deal with pain long term. They might get ahead of it by practicing the above chain links of wellness, but eventually it may come back. This is where you need to manage it. We use many techniques that affect our autonomic nervous system indirectly to increase our tolerance to stress and allow our physical bodies to come out of an alarm state or come out of that sympathetic nervous system state and to calm down, to come back to parasympathetic. All right. Meditation, breath work, restorative movement like yoga, tai chi, qigong, or even just going for a walk in the sunlight can help open a pathway for your body to calm down, bring that heart rate down, correct your heart rate variability, bring your breathing back down, and allow your brain to start thinking ahead in the prefrontal cortex and out of the amygdala, right? Get away from that emotional trap. Whatever method you use, any of these are fine, and even more, you can use to help find your happy place. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you, do it. Put it in your toolbox and practice it when the going gets tough. Be proactive. You have to practice this. If you don't, you won't be good at it when you need it, and you're never going to know when things are going to come up. All right, guys. Well, I hope this conversation about pain has helped you in some way, or at least been interesting to listen to. If it has, please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. But otherwise, just share it with a friend and let me know. Let me know your experiences or anything that's helped you in the past. Until next time, thank you so much for listening and be well. Bye.